أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها ليسكن إليها فلما تغشاها حملت حملا خفيفا فمرت به فلما أثقلت دعوا الله ربهما لئن آتيتنا صالحا لنكونن من الشاكرين. Respectful honorable friends, continuing with the series of advices pertaining to husband and wife, and the series which has been going for a few weeks now, 7 or 8 weeks now, and this has come about due to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this verse, that هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها ليسكن إليها, that it is He who has created you from a single soul and made a spouse from there, so that he could find comfort with her, means Sayyidina Adam from Sayyidina Hawa. So it was on this aspect of liyaskuna ilayha which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions as being an important part of marriage and nikah. And one of the purposes of nikah is this kuna ilayha, that the husband finds comfort in his wife. Hence it was on this aspect that I've been mentioning to you various ahadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regard to various aspects of marital life. And we had covered a fair few hadiths with regards to rights of the wife, and currently we are busy with the various rights of the husband. There are two aspects or two main points in the various ahadith that are related to it that I want to mention, and thereafter draw a close on this topic. Depending on time, either we may complete both aspects in today's tafsir or it may need to continue. In a hadith of Tarak bin Ali radiallahu ta'ala an of Tirmizi, where Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam mentions that إِذَا الرَّجُلُ دَعَى زَوْجَتُهُ لِحَاجَتِهِ فَلْتَأْتِهِ وَإِنْ كَانَتْ عَلَى التَّنُّورِ. Now, as I mentioned to you, now throughout these few weeks we've been doing the various hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us various talimat and lessons with regards to various different aspects of life between the husband and wife. For example, last week we did with regards to who is allowed within the home and who is allowed to even sit on the seat of the husband. We had done this aspect in last week's tafsir. In this riwayat, this hadith that I mentioned to you, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam mentions a very, very important injunction. And this is an injunction which is wajib upon the wife. And that is where Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam mentions, because look, as part of this relationship between husband and wife, it is not just limited to companionship in the form of two associates, two friends, but it is a lot deeper than that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept marriage there as a means to where husband and wife can find comfort, not just mentally but physically as well. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created desires in man, and these desires need to be fulfilled. For that reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept nikah for us, and the importance of nikah in our deen. So this is a manner in which through halal means a husband can attain satisfaction and a wife can find satisfaction. And this satisfaction and this comfort is only halal between the husband and wife. Our deen is not like other religions or other aspects of various other religions wherein certain sects or certain individuals are prohibited from marriage, as this is something that is absolutely unnatural, and because of this you find in such enclosures unnatural acts take place then, because it's natural. How much can a person subdue those desires that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept within man? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept in us the need to eat, the need to drink, and the need to sleep and rest. As much as a person tries to subdue these, there's only a limit, because it is unnatural for him to do so. The natural way is that a person needs to eat and he needs to drink. In this way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept these desires between husband and wife, and these need to be fulfilled. And this is an integral part and an important part of nikah, that this relationship between the husband and wife should be a healthy aspect of their married life as well. Otherwise, where there is a lot of discomfort between husband and wife, one of the reasons is where this aspect is not how it should be. Because again I mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what naturally Allah ta'ala has created. And for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Sayyidina Hawa for Sayyidina Adam. And accordingly till the day of Qiyamah, whoever gets married, this is that outlet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for one another. So this aspect has to be there. It isn't the be all and end all. It isn't that the person takes that, look, the whole purpose and the only purpose of nikah is just that physical relationship. But the physical relationship is a very important and essential aspect of nikah. Now in this riwayat, Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that when a husband calls his wife in order to fulfill his desires, then فَلْتَأْتِهِ وَإِنْ كَانَتْ عَلَى التَّنُّورِ. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that she should attend him even though she is at the tanur, even though she is at the stove, even though she is working at that time. And when at the stove means she is cooking. So when she is cooking, it means that she is occupied, she is busy. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying here that even if she is occupied but in anything else, if the husband has a desire for her, then that fulfilling of that desire is more important than any other work that she is doing. This is what is meant by Nabi Sallallahu mentioned, oh, even though she is at the tanur. However, the fuqaha mentioned here, and this obviously goes back to what we had mentioned with regards to the aspect of the cooking and the food and that this will be when? This will be when she may be cooking food that belongs to the husband. So that if she now attends to him and that food gets ruined, then it doesn't matter, because it is the husband who has called her and it is his own food that gets ruined. However, if she is cooking for herself, where she has brought the food, her own food, and she is cooking her own food, there it's not permissible for the husband to call her away from there, wherein now he becomes a means of destruction to her food. This is if you go according to, as I mentioned to you, those specific principles. But as I mentioned to you, if you're going to live according to these principles, then the home is not going to run smoothly, where the wife, she cooks for herself and the husband cooks for himself. It's not going to work smoothly. And although normally this doesn't happen, but there are occasions when this does happen. Maybe when there is friction between the husband and wife. And when there is this division and friction between the husband and wife, that's when they both now want to do their own things. So that means now she's become stubborn and she just cooks for herself. And now the husband, he needs to cook for himself. Or the other aspect is where what we find in our marriage lives, wherein the husband, he's got his own career. The wife, she's got her own career. So she comes home, she goes out on her own convenience. And the husband, he's doing his things and his convenience. So then he'll be providing and doing his own food. She'll be doing her own food. Because most of the time she might even be eating out, or he might be eating out. And now this is where it is his food. Mean that if he calls and the food gets spoiled, then it doesn't matter. But here Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is indicating, showing the importance of her being there when the husband has a need for her. This does not now mean that the husband, he takes this hadith literally, meaning that look, no matter the wife can be so busy, no matter what she may be doing, he keeps on going and he just calls her to him. It doesn't mean that either. It means that he needs to be understanding as well at that time. Look, she's busy in something, let her complete that, and then when the time is appropriate. But this is where maybe if that is the only appropriate time, or the condition of the husband is that he needs her at that moment, then what Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is indicating here is that it is now wajib upon her, it is her duty, that she should leave what she is doing and leave that and attend to the husband. This is from her obligations. And why I mention this is because it's here in this hadith. But along with that, there are those wives who are Allah-fearing, there are those who understand what their role is, those who understand what their duties are, those who understand these teachings of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And accordingly, in this aspect of their lives, they will always be available for their husband. They will cater for this need of the husband. But it is when we go on the other side of the free thinking and the modern wife, who doesn't have any attachment with deen, that wife who wants to be equal to as the husband, wants to be free as the husband and be equal to what the husband is, she will not understand these things. She will not understand these things. But rather it is a case of her, she will take it and say, look, I am not there for this purpose. I am not there for this purpose. Or, that look, I have more important things to be doing at this time. And she may not give heed towards this need or necessity of the husband. She does not want to be enslaved in this manner. She feels according that this is enslaving her in this aspect of fulfilling this duty towards her husband. But she doesn't realize that Nabi Karim Sallallahu has made that an obligation upon her. That whenever the husband has a need, she must be there and she must avail herself to him. But at the same time, the husband should be understanding as well, knowing that there might be certain times wherein the wife may not be physically well enough, or she might be physically tired or drained, that it may not be easy for her to fulfill this. Then he should be understanding and not make such demands on those instances. However, where that is not the case, or where there is a need for the husband and the wife, no matter what condition she is in, she needs to avail herself so that she has discharged this obligation of hers. This is what is very important for her. And why Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions this, that even if she is in a tanur, then too she must come and she must be with him. Because if at that time she declines and she does not, that can very easily lead the husband towards acts of immodesty. It can then lead the husband towards acts of immodesty. And many a times where acts which should take place within nikah do not take place in nikah, but it takes place outside nikah, one of the reasons is because of this aspect of the relationship between the husband and wife, because of it either not been in where lit is regarded, or where it does not exist. Where there are issues with regard and concerns in this matter. Due to this, you'll find that's when the husband now, he goes out, and this doesn't give him any rights to do that. It doesn't legislate for him. It doesn't give him a reason to. But this then encourages him, or shaitan will put various other thoughts in his mind. So in order to safeguard him and protect him from this, for that reason Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned that nikah is a fort, that it safeguards a person, it safeguards the chastity of an individual. So in this way the husband and wife will remain content with one another. There is also no reason whatsoever for them to have to complete their desires outside nikah and outside marriage. It is for that reason that even when it comes to the hudud, the had or the punishment of a person who commits zina, the had of one who is unmarried to the one who is married, big difference. The one who is married, there the punishment is a lot severe. The reason being is because there should be no excuse for that married person to commit zina, to commit any acts outside nikah which are permissible within nikah. Because he's got his wife. And when he has his wife, then why should he look anywhere beyond his wife? For that reason, Nabi Kareem instructs the wives that look, when the husband calls you, even if you are busy and he has a need for you, then you should attend to this need of his. And if she does not, then another hadith of Bukhari and Muslim of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, where Nabi Kareem mentions that if the husband who calls his wife towards him, فَأَبَتْ فَبَادَ غَضْبَانَ, and she declines and he sleeps in a state that he is displeased with her, لَانَتْهَا الْمَلَائِكَةُ حَتَّى تُصْبِحْ, that the malaika then curse her till the morning. That if a husband had a need for his wife, but the wife declined, and she had no valid reason to, she had no reason to decline. Just the fact that, oh, I'm not in the mood, or just that, look, I can't be asked, or any other non-valid reasons, and she declines and she does not fulfill his needs, and he sleeps in this state where he is displeased. Allah, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions that the malaika, the angels, will curse her till the morning. And in another riwayat of Bukhari Muslim, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions that kana fi samai sakhitan, that the one who is in the heavens is displeased with her. Meaning that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will be displeased with her hatta radiya, until the husband is not pleased with her. So if this continues, and the longer it continues, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will be displeased with that wife, if the husband is displeased with her on this matter. The other matters as well, which is the other aspect which is left with regards to the obedience of the husband. This is what Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions here. With regards to this physical relationship between the husband and wife, one of the other ahadith or important aspects to it, which I mentioned to you, that how important this bond is between the husband and wife. One of the reasons the husband and wife are not content with one another, one of the reasons here is because the husband and wife do not realize, the husband does not realize that he is there for the wife alone, and the wife is there for the husband alone. So what happens is, the husband, he adorns himself for others but the wife, and the wife, she adorns herself for others but the husband. And because of this, both are looking elsewhere and not looking at one another. And it is from that is the root from which then you find all forms of inappropriate or haram relationships transpire. Because they do not, and this in our time, we find this quite extreme, where the women folk who adorn themselves solely for others but the husband, or maybe others and the husband, and not exclusively for the husband. Whereas her beauty is solely for the husband and for nobody else. Let's look at a few hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is actually to do not with this husband-wife relationship directly, but in the hadith, in the awab of safar, of travel. The various hadith and lessons Nabi Kareem sallallahu gives. And this is a unique thing, my dear friends, and I mentioned this many times, that if you do not study hadith, we will not actually know the extent of the talimat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That there is hardly any chapter of a person's life that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has left untold, where Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has not taught us. Every aspect of our lives, there are so many hadiths that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us. If you just open the chapter of safar, of traveling, there itself Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us which time is the best time to travel during the day, how many people should travel together, how a person should travel, what should be taken with, what should not be. When a person whilst traveling he then stops over, how he should stop over as well. There are so many talimat of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he has given us with regards to just this aspect itself. Now in this advice, with regards to safar, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was his practice, and he even mentions that إِذَا طَالَ أَحَدُكُمْ الْغَيْبَةُ فَلَا يَتْرُكْ أَحْلُهُ لَيْلًا. When Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this hadith, and this was the practice of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that whilst on a long travel of a great distance, on return Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam would return early during the day. Or if he returned during the night, he would return and he would come in a masjid and remain in the masjid. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that if a person has been away from his wife for long, لا يترك أهله ليلا. Nabi Kareem mentioned that he should not come home at night. Now, certain aspects of these ahadiths may not directly apply to us in our time. Reason being is because we have various communication which was not available in the past. So in the past, when a person went on travel, he could not alert his family as to when he's going to return. Our case is every mile we can say, look, I'm 10 miles away, 9 miles away, 8 miles away now. I've just entered into Dewsbury. I've just come off junction 40. I've come off junction 25. And then I'm in Murfield. I'm in Wakefield. I'm in this point. I've entered into town. I've entered this place. We're just a few minutes away. I'm down the road. So our communication is different. We can alert them and they can be aware beforehand of when we're going to return home. In those days, that wasn't the case. For that reason, Nabi Kareem said, look, if it's a short distance somewhere for a few days, then it doesn't matter. But if it is a long distance and you travel, then do not go home immediately at that time. Why? Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam clarifies this in another hadith that إِذَا دَخَلْتَ لَيْلًا فَلَا تَدْخُلْ أَهْلَكَ حَتَّى تَسْتَحِدَّ الْمُغِيرَةُ وَتَشْتَمِتَ الشَّعِثَةُ. Nabi Kareem mentions that do not enter home until they are aware of your return. So if you're going to be in a masjid, news is going to reach that your husband has, and the men folk have returned and that. So in this way Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions what? Hatta tastahiddal mughibatu. So that woman whose husband has been away from her, away from home, she can remove unwanted hair. She can remove unwanted hair. وَتَشْتَمِتَ الشَّعِثَةُ. And that woman who is now disheveled, she can now comb her hair. She can now comb her hair. The reason why I mention this is to show how in those days the woman, her beauty would be reserved for her husband. That when the husband would be away from home, then she would not worry about adorning herself. Because the one for whom she should adorn is not present, so she wouldn't spend so much time in adorning herself. So for that reason, Nabi Kareem specifically mentions this. Otherwise, they would be, today's women, they would be ready. Every day they are adorning themselves. Nabi would not say that give time for your wives to adorn themselves. For their case is that she's already dolled up. And unfortunately, she's not dolled up there for the husband. And each time she goes out, she's dolled up. And each time she comes in the home, she's a total opposite. She is the total opposite. Hakim Umar Thanwi Rahmatullahi mentions She goes out all dressed up, and when she's in the home, she's like the mama. Means the worker in the home. In the home, she's like the worker, dressed in such a way. So the one for whom she's supposed to dress up for, he never sees her dressed up. And as the Tarbiyah mentions, the one who purchases and brings and provides for her such dresses, such clothing, this poor chap never gets to see her wearing it. Everybody else gets to see her, but he doesn't. Whereas it's supposed to be the other way around. That should be preserved for him. So on this we find that the women folk were such that if the husband was away, they would not even comb their hair, they would remain disheveled, means that they would not be upkept. They wouldn't adhere too much towards adorning themselves. So for that reason, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions that so do not enter the home at that night, so that the woman, she gets a chance, an opportunity to clean herself, and at the same time, if her hair is disheveled, she can then comb her hair. Why? So that the husband who's been away from home for a while, and when he's been away from home for a while, he's yearning to want to see his wife at least see his wife, be pleased in seeing his wife. He might even have a desire, a need for his wife. But now when he comes without giving any notice, and he just comes in the home, and he just sees that somebody is unclean and all disheveled and in a not so kept state, then that's going to be a put down to him, for him. He's not going to be inclined. Where he's happy, he's looking forward to see his wife, but instead he sees an appearance in front of him that it doesn't please him. Somebody all disheveled and not clean. Then obviously that's going to be off-putting for the husband. So Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam even stresses on this aspect. Now this is what I'm trying to show you, how Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has no aspect of our lives that he has not given any person the lessons with regards to things. And many of these things are those things which we would not even comprehend that Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has mentioned this. Or either that, or we would presume that these things are not even part of deen. Why should we be told these things? Why should we learn these things? These are not aspects of deen. Deen is what? Deen is just Allah, Allah, ibadat the whole time. But remember, all this is part of our deen. Because remember, in order for us to remain chaste, in order for us to be able to do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person needs to be content in his or her life. And where a person is not content in their lives, then it's going to have an effect on a person's ibadat. Mentally a person is not going to be there. Mentally, physically, and if he's disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's not going to be doing the ibadat of Allah. And even if he is doing the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's not going to be doing it the manner in which he's supposed to be doing it. So these aspects of life is so important. And these are those things that over 1400 years ago, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned these aspects to us. And in our times today, in the 21st century, how all the more we appreciate these things, and how all the more we can understand, and these things relate to us so much more. They relate to us so much more. Especially with regards to this relationship between the husband and wife, is very, very important. And this which Nabi Kareem mentioned, that this is a fort that keeps you safe and safeguards the chastity of the husband and wife. This is as real as it can be. And from experience with regards to cases that I have to deal with, we find how if this aspect, this relationship between the husband and wife, if this bond is not there, then it leads towards so many disobediences of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many of us know, we know what goes on around. We know our own condition of how our state is. And that is because of this, where the husband, when he sees his wife, he does not find his wife appealing to him. He does not find his wife attractive. And the wife, she does not find the husband attractive. And this is where that it leads towards so much disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not just one-sided. It's not just one-sided, where in the past, and this is because of how immoral we have become. Because of us losing haya. Women have more haya naturally A woman has more haya, modesty than a male. Now that doesn't mean that he gives more excuse for the husband or the male to commit the disobedience of Allah, but the man is a man. He won't have as much haya, modesty as that of a female. For that reason, female is the one who has to cover herself. She covers her modesty. We would have cases of the husband being mischievous, or the husband having illicit relationships, or the husband having inappropriate relationships with people, or doing inappropriate things. But now we live in such a time wherein it is on equal par. Where just as bad the husband is, the women have become so immoral and immodest as well. They become so immodest as well. Where it was a case of the wife would be at home not knowing what the husband is up to outside, or who the husband has communication with and who he has a relationship with. Now is a case wherein at times the husband, he is the one who doesn't know what's happening, and it's his wife who has so much mischief, and she is the one who is doing wrong, and she is the one who has such a relationship. This is how it is becoming. Just last week, somebody emailed me from Pakistan with regards to where this individual who started this communication with a female, and where this communication began on Facebook. On Facebook. And Facebook, dear friends, its purpose should be changed. It's not a social media site, but Facebook should rather be called a haram. Well, you won't get any halal anyway. It should be called a dating site. That's what Facebook is. Facebook has become a dating site, where so many people say that we met so and so, I met so and so. Where? On Facebook. And having this relationship with one another via this poisonous surge under the name of Facebook. That is destroying homes. It is destroying our homes. It is destroying the iman of our youth. That's how detrimental Facebook is. It should be totally removed from our lives. We didn't have it in the past, we lived without it, we can live without it as well now. Especially when the harms have outweighed its benefits. There are certain benefits of it. But we find that more and more people who have become used to Facebook and who utilize Facebook, there are more harms to it than there is benefits. And when that is the case, then just leave it, when you know that that is going to become a means of such things happening. So this individual is asking a question with regards to this relationship with a woman that he has met over Facebook. Anyhow, it starts off with this, but then it goes on to say, but how, and we love one another, and we want to get married with one another. This is the norm that we find. But the shocking part comes later on in the email, where he says, however, she is married. However, she is married, and we want to get married, and we both love each other. This is the type of things that people are involved in, where she is a married woman, but she is now in communication, and they talk with each other, or they whatever they do with each other, communication daily. They communicate with one another, and he knows of all her grievance. And now, because she is in love with somebody else, her husband is the worst person on earth, who beats her, abuses her, and treats her ill, and does this, that to her, everything. Why? Because she wants an escape gate. She wants a reason to exit that marriage. And why she wants to exit that marriage? Just because obviously she's found somebody else. He does for that reason. For that reason. And anyhow, this person is asking advice with regards to this matter, this aspect of this relationship between. This is how we are. This is how, and hopefully, I hope, inshallah, the reply I gave him would have shaken him up. Would have shaken him up. That he should be ashamed. Having such communication with any person, And then on top of it, somebody who is married, Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has cursed the individual who creates friction between and separation between the husband and wife. Who creates friction and division between husband and wife. And you mentioned him, just imagine if it was your wife who was having this form of relationship with somebody else. Think for a moment. You are having this relationship, this communication with somebody else's wife. What if it is your wife who was having such communication with somebody else? How would you feel at that time? She is also somebody's wife, remember that. And this is what we tend to forget. That she is also somebody's wife. She is also somebody's daughter. She is also somebody's sister. This way we wouldn't want somebody to be in such relationship with our wife, or with our daughters, or with our mothers or our sisters. They are also somebody's mother, sister and daughter. She is somebody's wife. Rather, if she is one mischievous, you should then cut severe communication with her and even tell her that, look, you need to sort yourself out. And this is what I said. Tell her, go back to husband, sort out her matters there. If things don't work out and naturally between them things don't work out and then divorce and in a halal manner you propose to her, you can marry her, that's a different situation. But till then it is absolutely haram for you to have such communication with one another. But unfortunately, these are the things, this illicit relationship, boyfriend girlfriend relationship has become the norm. People do not even so many emails I get where people are saying we're in a relationship for 5 years, for 10 years, for 12 years, for so many years, unmarried. And it's like, it's normal, it's fine. You know, in the past you'd feel ashamed, you might just hide all that, this and that, look, you know, I like somebody. And then ask whatever needs to be said. But here it is a case of actually putting this today, after Jummah somebody came to me, a youngster. Now he's in a relationship with a girl for 8 years. And he knows her for 8 years. He wants to marry her, but the signs are not positive. Means that she's not the type of girl that he would like to get married to. It took you 8 years. 8 years. 8 years. You stayed with her, you still with her. And now he's looking for who? He's looking for somebody who has a headscarf. Somebody who's obedient to the husband and somebody who reads and performs salah. He's looking for that. I say, how can you're dating her for 8 years? You know your condition and you having these dreams that she's going to be that pious wife of yours. Who for 8 years you've been messing around with. And you want her all of a sudden to get married to you and become al-mar'atu salihah, become a pious wife. How can that be possible? And neither is it. And there are those who, because of being together for so long, feel obliged. Because we've been together for so long, I feel now it's my obligation that I need to marry her. If you wanted to marry her, you should have married her from day one. Not spend 8 years with her and then now saying this thing. No obligation. After 8 years, 10 years, even 100 years, she's just so haram for you as day one. Because this boyfriend-girlfriend relationship means absolutely nothing at all. It is only this act of nikah that makes the boy and girl halal for one another. Outside nikah, they're absolute strangers no matter whatever they do together. Even live together, they live together, do everything together. 100 years they spend together. That means absolute nothing at all. They're still just so haram for one another. They're still ajnabi. They're still strangers for one another. No matter though they know one another so well. They both haram for one another. It is only through nikah that they become halal for one another. And these type of things, relationships, as I mentioned to you, have become the norm. You know, it's a normal thing. People are not even shy or feel embarrassed in admitting to such things. It's become so common, so you know, we've been together for so many years. As if there's nothing wrong in being together for so long. This is how we become. Which shows us that how we have disvalued or disregarded the severity of what zina is. This is how we become. For the reason in next week's Scholar's Scribe that we have, the talks that I have, the topics have been changing all the time of what topics to speak. And then this came in mind today as well, that this needs to be addressed as well, of it, because due to it becoming so common in our homes, of this relation illicit where the youth, the children, youth, and even the elders are involved in such form of illicit and haram relationship. And now, dear friends, coming back to the topic, these aspects, these things, this incorrect relationships that are being built outside nikah, outside marriage, one of the root problem is because within marriage that bondship and relationship is not there. It is not there. And this is very, very important. For that reason, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions to us that when a person gets married as well, when he sees a girl, when a person, those things that will sort of incline a person to get married are what? لِحَسَبِهَا وَلِجَمَالِهَا وَلِنَسَبِهَا وَلِدِينِهَا. That a person will look towards the beauty of a girl, he look towards the family, who the family is, he look towards the wealth, or how much money, if they are rich family, what they are. Person will look towards these things, and then there is that of deen, a person will look towards deen. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions that adopt the one who chooses deen. That person, he is the one who has adopted deen, is the one who is going to be the most successful. Because if there is deen there, deen in the husband, if the husband is muttaqi, then he won't get up to such things. And if the wife is pious and muttaqi as well, then she won't get up to such things as well. That is the most important thing. That is the most important thing. Whereas if a person just looks at wealth, family name and beauty, these are those things which are not going to give us comfort. Or if they do give us comfort, it's just going to be temporary comfort. That's all. Deen is the most important. But in our times, along with deen, it is also very, very important that لِجَمَالِهَا, that Jamal should also, a person should also look towards the beauty aspect as well. And not just look solely at deen alone. The time that we are living in, it's important a person keeps priority should be deen, but along with that also look towards the beauty. Especially if that is going to be a means of keeping a person chaste. Very, very important. Now these are the things that Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is indicating here towards. That the wife, for her beauty is reserved for the husband. In another hadith, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions, in this hadith, Abdul Masud Allah mentions of Ashrun, Yakrahu, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, 10 things that Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam disliked. And in these 10 things, one of the things Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had mentioned, Tabarruju bi zina, fi ghayri mahalliha, li ghayri mahalliha. Abu Dawud riwayat. When Nabi Kareem Sallallahu mentioned 10 things, very different things, which Nabi Kareem Sallallahu greatly disliked. And from these 10 things, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions with regards to women folk, that of her adorning herself لِغَيْرِ مَحَلِّهَا, for others besides the husband. Adorning herself for those besides the husband, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam greatly disliked this. And this is something that is prevalent in our times, where the wife, she adorns herself for everybody else but the husband, or everybody else and the husband. But majority of the time it's a case of for everybody else, mean that in the home, while she's in the home, she doesn't adorn herself at all. Nothing at all in the home. And then when it's time for her to go out, then when she goes out, she spends so much time. To that extent that even if she has to just go to the neighbor's house to borrow some flour, some eggs or something that she's run out from, she'll probably take 1 hour just dressing up before she can just go out a few steps from one house to the other house. That's how much time she'll spend just to adorn herself in just going to the neighbor in quickly getting something. That's how it works. And if she's going outside in the bazaar, then from top to bottom she's adorned herself. She's adorned herself top to bottom. She becomes shaitan, shaitan is with her. That she herself is shaitan. And then if she is going to a marriage, a wedding, tawbah. That is tawbah. The manner in which she adorns herself. And this is, we're not talking about what is a woman who is in hijab. Because she is in hijab, she has adorned herself, but she's in hijab. And then she's only going to reveal herself in the gathering of women. in the gathering of women. So at least that is allowed. That is allowed because it is only women folk who are going to see her. But as long as at the same time she allows her husband to see her in that form as well. Not that she only dresses up and adorns herself just for the sake of women. Because nowadays we have this as well. That where there is a program in a masjid or some other dini program, you find so many women adorn themselves so much just to attend dini programs. And who's she going to show? There's only other women there. What need is there for her to adorn herself so much just for the sake of being in the company of other women? Or being in the company of other women. And how important these things are with regards to moderation there as well is that she can adorn herself so much in front of somebody else. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned that it is not even permissible for a woman to describe another woman to her husband. To describe another woman to her husband. Because this is also zina of the mind, where he is now going to contemplate and imagine how she may be. So she should not even describe another woman in front of her husband. This is hijab, how much the Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has laid stress with regards to hijab. And she herself, she's adorning herself so much in front of people. So this is what is happening, that it is, and then when she's in the home, there's no adorning at all. So in this way, the husband, he's not satisfied with the wife. And we can understand that obviously, the type of lifestyle that we have, we're not expecting that the wife is going to sit there dolled up the whole time in the home, because she can't do. Because if you want her to obviously be doing the household work as well, looking after your house and your children, then she can't remain there dolled up the whole time as well. So you can't have that expectation. Because she's going to be involved in those things. So the husband should understand that, look, because of these things, she's not going to be dolled up. But when there is a need, then the wife should also adorn herself at those free times and when she can for the sake of the husband. And if she adorns herself and she does any of these beautification within the Sharia, or whether it is putting mehndi on in her hair or whatever other beautification there is, which is permissible. Which is permissible. And if she does this solely for the sake of her husband, this is ibad, this is tawaf for her. If she has her own shauq, her own desire to do it, she includes her husband, she'll get reward in that. And if she herself, because there might be some women who do not have an inclination towards these things. They're not inclined towards adorning them. It's naturally in them, they don't feel to adorn themselves. But those women who do not adorn themselves, if at that time they think, no, for the sake of my husband, let me adorn myself. Then for her, that is ibadat. That is her ibadat, that is her jannat. Because the husband is pleased with her, because she is now making herself appealing to the husband, and that is her jannat for her. That is her ibadat is in that aspect. And the sahabiyah, their friends were such. One sahabiyah, her condition was such that night time would come. She would deliberately, she'd adorn herself, she would put on clothing, perfume and jewelry. She would come to the husband and ask him that, is there any need for me or not? If so, fair enough. If not, if the husband would say there's no need, she would take that off and then she would go onto the musalla. Then she would go onto the musalla. Now one side there is what? It says this is because of our lack of understanding. We have this ifrat tafreet extreme both sides. One extreme of everything haram, or the other extreme wherein we do not understand what Islam and the moderation of Islam. Where there will be those women who think, no, all that thing is useless. More important than that is my ibadat that I do. More important than my husband and the khidmat of my husband is my ibadat that I do. The salat and my tahajjud and all these other ibadats that I'm doing, more important is that for me. So which means that if at night the husband has a need for me, I say no. Why? Because I need to sleep, because I need to wake up for tahajjud. My waking up for tahajjud is more important. And if I give time to my husband, that means I won't be able to wake up for tahajjud, I'll miss my tahajjud. So they'll say no to that and in order for the tahajjud. Not realizing that they'll get nothing from that tahajjud, because if the husband is displeased, Allah Ta'ala is displeased, what benefit is for her in performing that tahajjud? Or waking up at that time. She is crying there in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah forgive me, Allah forgive me. Her forgiveness is not there, her forgiveness is there in the husband. The husband doesn't become pleased, and he doesn't forgive her, then Allah will not forgive her. She is there crying and wanting, she is doing ibadat, she is doing her tasbihat, her zikr, tilawat to acquire the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the pleasure of Allah is not in that ma'mulat of hers. The pleasure of Allah is in the pleasure of her husband. If the husband is fine and he is pleased, then Allah will be pleased. But if the husband is displeased, then no matter how much ibadah she does, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be pleased with her. But this obviously excludes the farais and wajibat. The husband can't become displeased on that aspect if she wants to perform her farais and wajibat. He can't stop her from that. We're not talking with this, not indicating that. This is with regards to nawafil. So this sahabiya, she would actually adorn herself and say to her husband. So there was one is the salat and the other is adorn, but she would actually adorn herself in such a manner. The waqiyah of Abu Talha radiallahu ta'ala and Salma, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had the child that they had who was ill, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the child then passed away. And when Sayyidina Abu Talha radiallahu ta'ala came home from work, his wife had not even told him that the child is ill. And thinking that the husband may have a need for her, just imagine her child has passed away, even in that condition she adorns herself. And not only does she adorn herself, but they both even physically have a relationship of a husband and wife. And then it is only in the morning that she says to the husband with regard to the child that, look, if somebody gives you an amanat, and then that person asks for that amanat back, are you going to complain on that, or are you going to be pleased that you've given that amanat back? Because the night before when he asked that how the child is, she said the child is in comfort. So she did not lie. He is in comfort now. He assumed that the child is well. And in this way they had this conjugal relationship with one another. That it is only in the morning she said that in this way Allah had given you this amanat and now Allah has taken that amanat away from you. And when they saw Nabi Kareem Sallallahu, when he went to Nabi Kareem actually said how Mubarak your night was. How Mubarak your night was. So it shows us here how in such condition as well, but she sees towards the needs of the husband, and even in that condition she gets the courage, or she has the tawfiq, the understanding, and she even adorns herself for the sake of the husband. And these are the things that they would do. These are the things that they would do. For what? But they wouldn't do it for others, it would be case for the husband alone. And these things, my dear friends, are very, very important. Very, very important, where the wife should adorn herself solely for the husband. Because where she does, the husband will say, well, she will say, the wife will say, I adorn myself. I overdo it as well. She might be overdoing it, but she's not doing it for the husband. So the husband, he's not going to be satisfied with that, because he knows, well, everybody is seeing her beauty. She's doing it for everybody. So he's not going to be any pleased with that at all. It is where, and it should be the other case wherein the husband, whenever he goes home, he just finds his wife in those old rags and no form of adorning herself, even thinking for herself, look, this is my husband. He has his needs and desires as well. I should be the means of keeping, as Nabi mentioned with regards to nikah, the aghaddu lil basar. The nikah, it lowers the gazes. So the wife should be the means of lowering of the gazes of the husband, so that he has no need to be looking elsewhere. And also the reality is, dear friends, that as long as their gazes remain on one another, their gazes will not fall on anybody else. There will be no need. But it is down that their gazes are not on one another. They don't even want to look towards one another. There is so much friction between the husband and wife that they don't want to even look towards one another. There's never any complimenting of one another. And this would happen, and when there are times wherein the wife does adorn herself, the husband should then show appreciation, and they should even compliment the wives on it. We reserve all these compliments for who? Outside. I've said this so many times that they at work will compliment all the female staff. All the female staff will compliment them there. Any slight change in the color of their hair will notice that. They change the style of their hair, will notice that immediately and will compliment on it. The wife, she changes her hairstyle and she's walking up and down in front of you all the time to get your attention. You won't notice at all that she's combed her hair a bit differently. She's worn a new dress, she will be walking up and down in front of you, trying to get your attention that you even see and look towards her, even say something, and nothing. This is reality. This is what's happening in our homes. The husband is unaware of these things of his wife. He knows nothing about his wife. But on the contrary, he knows everything that's happening with everybody else outside. Different matter, somebody said, Allah Mia ki guy, he's such a Sufi that he doesn't know what's happening outside and nothing at home either. And this is also contrary to the Sunnah anyway, because that wasn't the case of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you might have somebody who's like that, who doesn't anyway, so never mind, there's nothing to lose. But here is a case of where outside all is compliments. Everybody looks beautiful, but the wife does not look beautiful. And then what the husband says to the wife, how come your hair is not like so-and-so's wife? Why don't you comb your hair like she combs her hair? Why don't you dress like how she dresses? Why don't you look like so-and-so looks? Why your appearance not like this, like that person? This does not help at all. This totally breaks the confidence of the wife. Where a person then sees this way. And this is what happens. Why? Because he's looking at everybody else's wife. So when he's looking at everybody else's wives, then obviously he can't see his wife, and he wants everybody else's wives to be in his wife. So he can see the beauty of everybody else's wife, but he can't see the beauty within his own wife. And the opposite as well. But she is saying to the husband, why don't you earn so much as so-and-so's husband? This is what happens. He earns so much, he's got his own car, he's got this car, and he's got this, they've already bought their own house. They go for holidays. Never mind, before it was the case of once a year, now it's the case of every holiday they go for holiday. Every holiday they go for holidays. They go for this, they have this, they got this. All the time she's now talking about everybody else's husband. This is what breaks the marriage. Where the husband should only be looking at his wife, and the wife should only be looking at the husband. In this way you'll find they'll always be content with one another. They'll always be pleased with one another. And my Shaykh Dawrakatuhu mentions, beautiful share of Hazrat, mixed English Urdu. Na dekho kisi ki wife, वरना खाने पड़ेगी विलियम 5 और चुभेगी हर वक्त तुम्हारी लिवर में उसकी नाइफ और खराब हो जाएगी तुम्हारी लाइफ. तो न देखो किसी Hazrat is Urdu speaking. Hazrat has not learned English specifically, but how here Hazrat Dawud Khatum has rhymed all the English words as well. न देखो किसी की वाइफ वरना खाने पड़ेगी वॉल्यूम 5. दवा यहाँ वॉल्यूम 5 तो वाइफ और यहाँ वॉल्यूम 5 और चुभेगी हर वक्त तुम्हारी लिवर में उसकी नाइफ और खराब हो जाएगी तुम्हारी लाइफ या नाइफ लाइफ. As in English में, in English how he's rhymed these things as well. And this is the reality. खराब हो जाएगी तुम्हारी life. This is what will happen. Look elsewhere, your life will become destroyed. Because why you're not finding that what you find outside, and this is the case. Different. This is how beauty is. This is what Allah Ta'ala mentions. كُلُّ فَوْقِ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Over every learned person, there is somebody else who is learned. That's the same with beauty as well. Somebody is so beautiful, you'll find somebody else who is more beautiful than them. Beauty is going to continue. You can't match that. And if a person is going to look towards that, then whoever is going to look at is going to be more beautiful than his wife. But rather it's a case of he needs to make his wife the most beautiful in his eyes. So for him the most beautiful is his wife, which means that person, their beauty is nothing compared to the beauty of his wife, because he is seeing the beauty of his wife. And that beauty is not just in appearance, but that beauty is in all these aspects that we've been talking about, of these hukuk of one another, of this piety and good akhlaq. It is all these things that brings about the beauty of a person. Now when he looks at his wife, he sees the beauty, her external beauty, and he also sees the beauty of her chastity. He sees the beauty of her honor and loyalty to him. He sees the beauty of her obedience to him. He sees the beauty of whatever else she does to bring comfort to him. And she looks at the husband, and then she sees all these qualities of the husband in him as well. And this is what enhances and brings out the beauty. Allah Ta'ala mentions that you might dislike something, but there are so many other good things that there are in her. And this is something that we must understand. And remember, all those who are dolled up in the bazaars and dolled up in the streets, or dolled up in the workplaces, who we always looking at and we think that they are better than their wives. Remember, they're not going to do anything for you what your wife is doing for you. Compliment her from morning to evening. Compliment the whole day. When you go home, she's not the one who's going to have that meal cooked for you at home. She's not the one who's going to do your washing. She's not the one who's going to look after your children. She's not the one who's going to be looking after your house. So she's not the one who is worthy of your compliments at all. She's not worthy of that at all. The one who is the one who is there in the home. And that is where the compliments should be given. So now, dear friends, this is another aspect. We can go on and on to now end it off. One very, very important aspect of having a blissful relationship, and this which Allah Ta'ala mentions, yaskun ilayha, comfort between the husband and wife, is where this physical attraction and this means of comfort for one another needs to exist between the two. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the understanding. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Try and end the series next week, inshallah, with the last aspect that is there. Next week, tafsir will be after Maghrib. Next week, tafsir. Majlis, Wednesday program will still be after Isha. Friday will be after Maghrib. It's holiday as well. And inshallah, another announcement next week. Our Scholars Scribe program will also commence from Friday, from Jummah, and the evening program. And the main programs will be on Saturday and Sunday. So all the mothers and sisters listening at home as well, they can encourage their youngsters. Saturday program will begin from after Zohar till 4 o'clock, and then from Maghrib to Isha. Sunday will be from Zohar till Asr. Various speeches and talks will take place. We'll be having guests from European countries as well. So when others can come from so far, then us local, those who are local, all the more we should try and attend, especially the youngsters. It's a holiday period, so there's no excuse. Everybody's majority are on holiday. Youngsters are on holiday anyway. So this is a good way of spending the time appropriately, beneficially. So the mothers and sisters are requested, urged to send the menfolk and the youngsters here to the academy. And those who are listening, try and attend themselves as well. And for the mothers and sisters, locally they can hear the program through the receiver. Those who are away, afar, they can follow the entire program from the website. All the timings and the details will be on the website as well.